Good evening and welcome to the June 25th meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. This meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference. It is also being broadcast by FCTV on cable channel 9. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, and what can be seen and heard in your background. We're missing 2 commissioners at the moment. However, we have a quorum. We're moving forward. I'd like to remind you guys that for commenting, I'll call on each of you, so we're not speaking over each other, and that all votes have to be done by roll call. So when I call your name, please state your name and your vote for the record, even if you've made the motion or the second. To our public attendees, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, they will be read into the record. If, as an attendee, you'd like to participate in a particular hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then at the appropriate time, you will be promoted into the hearing as a participant. When you are selected, you must have your video enabled, be succinct, and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. Regarding RDAs, under a request for determination of applicability, the applicant is asking the Commission to determine if the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and/or the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw apply to their proposed project. A negative determination is that the provisions of the Act and/or the bylaw do not apply. Therefore, the project may proceed as proposed. A positive determination means the provisions of the Act and/or the bylaw do in fact apply and/or may require some conditions. Therefore, the project would require a notice of intent application. So as an applicant, you actually want to hear something negative. For the benefit of anyone waiting for a particular hearing tonight, and so that you're not waiting unnecessarily, the following hearings are expected to be continued. 152 Secondusset Road, 84 Old Dock Road, 10 Central Avenue, and 40 Mary Manuel Way. We have a busy night tonight, so let's get right to it. First up, vote minutes, June 11, 2025.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we adopt the minutes as written with any possible changes made tonight.
Thank you.
Not in second.
Robbins.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as submitted. Questions, comments, or input? All right, we're voting to accept the minutes. Bill?
Duffy, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
David?
Kent, aye.
Matthews, aye. Ronnie?
Bowman, aye.
Russ?
Robbins, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted the minutes of 6/11. Thank you, Kristen. Next up, our request for a continuance under a notice of intent. First up, Susan and Brian O'Connor, 152 Secondusset Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to conduct invasive species management in a pruned deadwood and for after-the-fact approval of a gravel driveway and a stone wall. Alyssa.
Yes, the applicant has requested a continuance until July 2nd. The site will be staked tomorrow. If that seems too quick, they are able to continue to the 16th.
I'll move that we continue this until, what was it, the first, second? July 2nd.
I'll second that, Robbins.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this hearing until July 2nd. Questions or comments? We're voting on the continuance. Bill?
Duffy, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
David?
Kent, aye.
Matthews, aye. Ronnie?
Bowman, aye.
Russ?
Robbins, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until July 2nd. Next up, David Flaherty, Flaherty Environmental Services, 84 Old Dock Road, Falmouth, Mass, for after-the-fact permission for the installation of hardscape and permission to install the associated mitigation. Alyssa.
The applicant has requested a continuance until July 23rd.
Bird, so move.
Robbins, second.
We have a motion and a second to continue this till July 23rd. Questions or comments? We're voting on the continuance. Bill,
Duffy, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
David,
Kent, aye.
Matthews, aye. Ronnie,
Bowman, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until July 23rd. Next up, Nicholas Pokronis, 10 Central Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to remove a patio, construct an addition, install a fence, and install plantings. Alyssa.
The applicant has requested a continuance until July 2nd.
Bird, so move.
Patton,
Robbins,
second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to continue this till July 2nd. Questions or comments? We're voting on the continuance. Bill,
Duffy, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
David,
Kent, aye.
Matthews, aye. Ronnie,
Bowman, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until July 2nd. Next up, Joshua Cardoza, 40 Mary Manuel Way, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a single-family dwelling with attached garage and Title V sewage disposal system. Alyssa.
The applicant has requested a continuance until July 16th.
Bird, so move.
Robbins, second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to continue this until July 16. Questions or comments? We're voting on the continuance. Bill,
Duffy, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
David,
Kent, aye.
Matthews, aye. Ronnie,
Bowman, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until July 16. Next up, our request for determination of applicability. Stephen and Jennifer Brunel, 261 Minot Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to reconstruct a porch with steps, remove a deck, construct landings with steps, and relocate a rent station. Alyssa.
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed in this project. Solely takes place in an AE flood zone.
Bird, so move.
Robbins, second.
And we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept staff's recommendation. Bill,
Duffy, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
David,
Kent, aye.
Matthews, aye. Ronnie,
Bowman, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Victor Romero, number 6 and number 8 Massachusetts Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to raise, RAZE, the single-family dwelling on 8 Mass Ave, construct an addition to the dwelling at 6 Mass Ave, remove a shed and a landing, construct 2 patios, stone walls, and a parking area, and install 2 dry wells. Alyssa.
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed in this project. Solely takes place in an AE flood zone.
Bird, so move.
Robbins, aye. I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept staff's recommendation. Bill,
Duffy, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
David,
Kent, aye.
Matthews, aye. Ronnie,
Bowman, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Thank you, Alyssa and Fallon. Next up, our request for a hearing under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. As a reminder, public commenting is limited to 3 minutes. So I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Wetlands Bylaw, and how they pertain to a particular application, the chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. First up, John and Jane Mullen, trustees, 123 Bywater Court Realty Trust, 123 Bywater Court, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to replace a shed, reconstruct the existing patio and rinse station, and enlarge the driveway. Jen.
Mr. Chairman, I am going to promote Mike Borselli so he can present his project.
There you are.
Oh, you forgot about me.
Never. Mr. Borselli, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the commission, for the record, Mike Borselli. I represent the applicant, John Mullen. With your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully I'm sharing. The property is number 123 Bywater Court. It's just north of Surf Drive by a couple of lots. Bywater Court comes off of Surf Drive, and this house has frontage on Fresh River, which comes from Sitters Pond north of here, makes its way down and discharges underneath Surf Drive into Vineyard Sound. The wetland resources of note include land under a water body, and there's a sloping landform at the edge of the river that is a stone revetment, and so it meets the definition of coastal bank. We've identified it as a coastal bank. This property is also in a riverfront area, so we've shown on the plan the inner and outer riparian zones. The Mullins have a plan to just do some relatively minor improvements to the yard area. They include widening the crushed stone driveway to accommodate additional family members. This is a gathering place for the family, and there's not enough room for to park cars, so they're widening out the crushed stone area off of Bywater Court. There's also a crushed stone area that isn't the best surface for, outside living, so they're going to convert it from crushed stone to bluestone. In addition, they have a brick patio that's starting to heave, and it's not very level, so the goal is to take out the brick patio and have the entire thing be a bluestone paver patio, all contiguous. There's an existing shed that has an overhang, and they propose to remove the shed and the overhang and replace it with just a new shed, same size. The chimney is obsolete. They intend to remove that, and they have an existing rinse station that they hope to rebuild. They're basically trying to do some cosmetic improvements to the yard, make it more user-friendly for outdoor living, and the shed they need a new shed. I've shown a limit of work on the plan. I've identified the areas of all the different surfaces, and I calculated the requirement for the mitigation planting. And we're proposing 300 square feet of mitigation planting, and this is basically to mitigate for converting the crushed stone to bluestone. It's 138 square feet right now. It's in a B zone, so 2-to-1 mitigation is 276, and we round it up to 300. And the plant calculator with 4 feet spacing, staggered rows, gives you 22 plants. Now, the owner had wanted to place it along there's an existing rail fence here, and if you can see a green shaded area. He's trying to preserve his view over Fresh River. That's why he did this configuration. There was some staff comments. The first one was of note was, oh, let me catch up here. I'm zooming in. There's a fence here, and we proposed a mitigation planting to basically straddle through that fence. And there was a comment that we can't bisect it. So I guess that means, I think that means put it all on this side of the fence. And there was also a comment about this should be more closer to the river. This is all in an A zone. Obviously, it was strategically proposed here to not interfere with views. So it could be reconfigured in a different shape in this corner. So I defer to the commission on that. I'm just telling you what the owner had wanted. There was also a comment about possibly needing a dry well for one of the roof leaders, and there was a picture in the staff report. I guess if you want a dry well, we could put one, but it's not eroding eroding into a wetland. It probably does pond there, and it's probably a good idea to put a dry well in. Probably ponds on the driveway. So when they're doing all the repaving and everything, they could, I assume there's no issue with my client to put in a dry well. I think that sums it up. I'm happy to take questions. I think I need to, there was a comment about recalculating with the overhang. In fact, that's going to probably give me a credit, so it's going to make my required mitigation a little less. So I'm happy to include the overhang in the calculations because we're not putting the overhang back. I'm happy to take questions.
Thanks, Mike.
Unless-
Ken,
Mike, can you stop sharing, please?
Yep. I gotta figure out how to stop sharing. I can't find a stop share. It's like they changed the configuration here. How about I do this? Does this stop sharing?
That works. Thanks, Mike.
I found a button.
I shut off the monitor.
I think a dry well would be a good idea. You only had like a foot on the seaward side of the fence, so I don't want the mitigation bisected by that fence. So putting them all on the landward side makes more sense. And I think grouping them in that corner. And for the newer commissioners, maybe we'll start, Alyssa, when we say that the regulations say they have to be the closest to the resource area, we'll start citing the specific regulations if we mention them. In this case, it's 1018-7E7, and it says the mitigation area shall be in an area zone A that is not already naturally vegetated and is closest to the resource area. So lining them up along the property line, Mike, doesn't really kind of meet the regs. So if you wanted, they don't need to be like across the whole property, but sometimes we group them in a corner. If you could do
Yep.
that would be great.
Yep, I get it.
Kind of like a little buffer over there.
Yeah, I understand.
So, and that's all I have. Oh, and the dune, Mike. Did you mention the dune? I'm sorry.
Oh, I did not mention the dune. What?
Yeah, there is a dune along the road. It is actually a dune. So if you could show the edge of dune, it's not going to, I don't believe it's going to affect your buffer zones at all. But we do want the correct delineations on the plan.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Alyssa,
And just to clarify for you, Mike, it's not the dune on the Surf Drive beach side, but the Bywater Court side.
Yeah, it must be right along Surf Drive on that side.
Yeah, I think
I
the
didn't-
sand just overwashes and it's doony.
Yeah, and you just want to show it and show where its jurisdictional line is onto our
Yeah.
lot.
Correct.
Yeah, I understand. Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, commissioner comments. Bill.
I don't have any comments at this time.
All right, Courtney.
Other than agreeing with Jen's suggestion, I have no other comments.
All right, David.
No comments.
Okay, Ronnie.
I think we move forward, just get them in the northwest corner for the mitigation instead of along the fence there. That'll be good for the view.
Mm-hmm.
Russ.
I'm good, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Steve.
Yeah, thanks. I agree with the clustering of the plants somewhere in the A.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat function, and I think we can condition a revised plan showing that.
You want that
Okay.
submitted with before we consider the order?
Excuse me, Courtney?
Do you want that plan before we vote the order of some more of them?
No, I think we can condition it. It's small enough revisions that I think we can condition that.
Okay.
I think Mike has heard the board and he understands what his marching orders are.
So on that, I will make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Robin, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Last call, questions or comments? All right, we're voting to close the hearing. Bill.
Duffy, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
David.
Kent, aye.
Matthews, aye. Ronnie.
Bowman, aye.
Russ.
Robin's aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Next up, Joanne Burke, trustee, 5 North Chop Nominee Trust, number 5 North Chop Lane, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to install a pool, patio, and mitigation plantings. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mike Borselli is here from Falmouth Engineering to present his project, and I am promoting Angela Tanner from Crawford Land Management to present her plan.
Excellent.
Good
Mr.
evening,
Borselli,
Angela.
welcome back.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, for the record, Mike Borselli. I represent the applicant along with Angela Tanner. And I'm having a little technical issue with the sharing, not sharing. Am I currently sharing?
No.
All right, I don't know where my stop share button went, but it's disappeared, but I can share.
I can stop for you, Mike. I found the button.
Okay, I don't know, but it must be middle age. I don't know. I'm sharing now, I hope, and I didn't ask permission, but I hope it's okay. I found the stop
That's all
share
right.
button too. I'm good.
Wow.
Angela, do I need to share your plan?
Now he's
No,
getting
but
cocky. He's going to share everything.
I'm going to use the opportunity to ask if you can hear me because last time I was having a hard time with my microphone.
Yep, we can. Have it.
Okay. I have my plan I can share if,
Thank you.
or you can share it. It doesn't matter to me.
I'm going to let you share since I'm having trouble with sharing, but I'm going to go through my plan and then I'm going to turn it over to Angela, Mr. Chairman.
All righty.
So for the record, again, we represent the applicant. The applicant is proposing to install a small pool on the west side of the house. This lot has been before you through the years for a couple of different projects. Way back when the house was before the commission and received an order of conditions, there was some original mitigation planting required with that house. It was actually at a time before your current regulations. It was a little different, but there was a plan submitted by a landscape designer at the time, Heather Wright, that proposed the mitigation planting that was approved. Subsequent to that, you've seen this project to have the riprap reconstructed and beach nourishment. That work was done. An application for a certificate of compliance was submitted, and there was some non-compliance matters relative to the mitigation planting. Didn't seem to be, from the original mitigation planting, didn't seem to be being maintained. So when we met with staff for a compliance review, that we went over that, and Angela from Crawford Land Management was brought on board to address that problem, but we thought we'd file a new notice since the original mitigation still needed to be done. We thought we'd apply for one notice of intent to do the pool and the required mitigation for the pool, and to restore and replant the parts of the original mitigation that were not doing well. So my plan shows the auto cover in the pool. It shows the additional mitigation required is 746 square feet, and it's in these areas with the broad dashed line around. There's also some additional beach grass in this shaded green color down here. The particulars of the planting plan are on the Crawford Land Management Plan, and I'm going to turn it over to Angela for her to present her plan, and I'm going to stop sharing my plan. Look at that.
Thanks, Mike. Angela, you're up.
Angela Tanner from Crawford Land Management, and I'm going to attempt to share my screen.
There you go.
Are you able to see that?
Yes.
Okay. So the original mitigation planting is in this area along here. There's some existing beach grass in that corner. There's some existing bayberry and some juniper trees. And down on the so that's the west side. The east side, there's some existing beach grass in here. There's a bunch of dead Rosa virginiana in here. And then there's some bayberry in here. So the bayberry is relatively intact on both sides. There are some missing ones. The Rosa virginiana is completely gone. And then the beach grass, you can see this red dashed line right here. That's where the beach grass was originally supposed to be planted, but there were some existing Rosa rugosa in here, which is still there and healthy and thriving. And then these steps right here, I think on the original plan were not supposed to be there, but they were built right here. So I think that's why the beach grass was never planted here. So what we proposed to do for the existing mitigation was add the beach grass that wasn't planted in this area here, and then replace these roses with a mix of bayberry and chokeberry, and then replace any of the missing bayberry that are in here, and replace a few of the bayberry. That's what's indicated in the red are the ones that are missing and dead that we would replace. We're also proposing, I think the original enforcement had something about the trees being too close together. So we're proposing to move them so they're further apart, move one out so these four are more spaced. And same with over here. And there's like 3 of them right in here. So we're going to move one and just make sure that they have a little bit more room. In association with the spa, we basically took this existing mitigation row here and just beefed up the whole thing, just made it fatter. And we added a more biodiverse mix of plants. We have beach plum and viburnum and chokeberry. We do still have some roses, but we think that they should do fine on this site if they're given the correct setup with the temporary irrigation that they need, and if things are maintained. I know the staff had questions about the maintenance, previous maintenance of the property, and the current owner. It was her parents' property. I think there may not have been attention to the maintenance of the plants, but she's prepared to give them the attention that they need. And I think another question the staff had was about the proximity of this to the spa. And because this is a slightly raised spa and the associated auto cover vault with it is also raised, aesthetically, I think it would look better to have the plants around it. They are not intending on using this area of the property as an area to walk through. They want that to be, you know, a thicker buffer. So that's why we have it the way that we do. And I guess that's pretty much it. I would welcome your comments and questions. Do you want me to stop sharing?
Yes, please. Thank you. Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, my comments are the same I had on the last project. The mitigation really should be more clumped closer to the resource area. It appears they're using that mitigation as a screening. Also, you don't allow mitigation 10 feet within a structure, and this is definitely 10 feet within that pool. I think these plantings are going to get really big. Plantings are not supposed to be pruned, and just having them that close to the spa, when they grow, they're going to be required to be pruned, or they're going to interfere with the use of the spa. So they're meant to be a buffer. They're not meant to be a manicured screen, and they should be moved appropriately closer to the buffer. This property, we've had issues with the mitigation on this property since I started, so that's 2005. Ever since we started permitting work on this property, the mitigation has never been maintained. So there really does need to be attention. It's not your fault, Angela, but the property owner, do they live there full time?
No,
Or the daughter?
no.
No. So how are they going to maintain the plantings?
Same
They-
as other people that have second homes, they'll either hire someone to maintain it, or they'll take whatever steps are necessary to maintain it.
Unfortunately, Mike, you know, they haven't been maintained since 2007, so my faith is not quite there.
Yeah, I know, I
But,
get it, but we explained
yeah.
that it was her older parents and they weren't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But those are my only questions. I mean, my only comments.
all right, Alyssa,
Thank you. Yeah, just to keep going through the staff comments. Mike, my note about the bayberry, I think those are the bayberry associated with the beach nourishment order of conditions that are located along the wall. I'm not sure if the wall is getting, I mean, it seems very tall. I doubt it's getting overtopped, but there just don't seem to be doing well there. They were previously proposed to be sort of clumped off to the side. So just taking into consideration those plantings, those might need to be reinstalled or reinstalled elsewhere. So perhaps we can lump those in to this plan. Most of them just didn't seem to be doing quite well.
Yeah, Angela and I talked about this. Our recollection and understanding was that those were never actually part of the mitigation area. So they were just sort of voluntarily planted there, and it was a bad choice. Angela, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that's my understanding.
Yeah, my understanding is they were planted there. I don't think it was a decision on the client's part to put those in that location. There, when I look at the numbers on what was on the previously approved mitigation plan, the numbers of the plants are all accounted for on the property lines. And I don't have a plan that showed anything that was supposed to go in there. Maybe there's a plan that I don't know about.
Yeah, there were
Yeah.
two back-to-back orders where the latter one had all the mitigation and the prior just showed the bayberry. I'm not sure why the bayberry wasn't shown on the mitigation plan. Maybe just they were just two concurrent but different orders. But I can go through that with you guys and we can delve further into it. I think another one of our comments was, again, the mitigation being on the property lines goes back to the original 2007 plan. Now being 2025, it'd be nice to see more of that shifted towards the resource area for a proper buffer.
Just a general comment on that. We're gonna revisit that and look at it, but you can see we have limited room, and other staff comments about not allowing it within 10 feet of the pool are also going to take up some additional space. So we got to come up with a reconfiguration of that is satisfactory. But I'd like to hear from the commission if you have the same concerns about having the buffer plantings near and around the one side of the pool, keeping in mind we have limited room here for planting. I know that you have a policy where you like to see a 10-foot around structures, but this is sort of a different thing. It's similar to like a patio, and I think you've allowed that on other projects, but I didn't hear any feedback from the commission on it. So we just looking for some guidance on that.
35.
Yeah, and that kind of rolls into our next comment is just there is lawn space towards the front yard. So I know the pool, like there is room to shift it outside of the buffer if we do lack room for the amount of plantings. I don't know if just having it right across from that porch area just allows for more kind of people to sit near it, have some shade very close to it. But if we did need to shift it to accommodate room for more plantings, it looks like there's lawn room. And considering the amount of work that's gone on the beach and on the riprap, that's been the main access point of all the machinery. So going forward, is the homeowner aware that future beach nourishment will need to come in through a barge?
Yeah, we've explained that. We've discussed that. There's other means of placement of sand for beach nourishment, which includes pumping, which could be pumped from the front of the house via a discharge hose, just like you see the dredge do when it dredges the openings of all the channels. It can pump to the place. I'm not convinced they're ever going to do more beach nourishment. This is a real high energy area, and this beach nourishment doesn't really last very long. But Joanne Burke has been made aware of that, and she's balancing the trading off wanting the pool for more limited access to the.
Okay.
We have no expectations of ever needing to do any new revetment work. That revetment is massive. If that revetment gets destroyed in a storm, I suspect we'll have bigger problems with like other areas around the house, in the house, if we get a storm of that magnitude, because that, if you've seen that riprap, it's massive.
Absolutely. And then the last comment was just the patio on the eastern side of the house. In review of old aerial photos, I wasn't here for those original two orders of conditions, so I was just looking through. It did get a bit larger towards the seaward side, so we'll just need to either mitigate for that or remove it. I can send you some photos.
Well, I think we'll be meeting with you, so if I could, I'd like to share my screen again, because I was unaware of that. Just for now, could you direct me to where that is, and we'll meet with you to talk about it more. But you said it's on this side somewhere?
Yeah, so next to the shower platform and the ACs, there's a large patio. It was maybe half or a third of the size back when there was a COC in the early 2010s. And then based on aerial photos, pretty much the part in the buffer was augmented.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I have.
All right, commissioner comments. Courtney.
I think we're overlooking what the function of a buffer is. And you put a few plants over there by the spa. And I realize the owner wants to maximize their view. That's what a waterfront property is all about. But I think there has to be a better balance in the way the buffer is designed. Obviously, in an ideal world, you want a buffer that protects the property from the effects of the sea, but also provides habitat. And, those things they're not there in that buffer design that you have. I realize too, that all of this is a balancing act. In other words, the owner wants to maximize their view. They've got a waterfront property, but I think you guys can do a better job of designing a buffer that somewhere comes close to meeting what a purpose of a buffer is. Those are my only comments.
Thank you. David.
No comments.
All right. So I agree with a lot of what Courtney just said. I think the mitigation should be moved closer to the buffer. This property's always been problematic with getting the mitigation done and corrected and successful. I would vote for the mitigation to be in the order conditions to be done prior to the permit issued. This just seems to get kicked down the road a lot. That's my opinion. Mike, the dry well you have, is that adequate to be function as a drawdown tank as well?
Yes, that's the purpose of it. It's a small pool and they don't get drawn. They can control the pumping. It's not a lot of volume and this is very permeable material here.
Okay. All right. Ronnie.
No comment.
Russ.
Yeah, I've got nothing at this time.
Steve.
I agree with shifting the mitigation to the seaward. But I have a question. Would we approve plantings in the pool area, not mitigation?
Yeah.
You mean extra planting, Steve, if they wanted that screening kind of atmosphere?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, Bill.
I'm in agreement with you and Courtney. A little bit of I'd like to see an updated mitigation, but I do like Steve's idea. Is like you can add stuff there to make it nice, but the buffer should be dealt with.
Agreed. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
All right, what are we thinking?
I think, Mr. Chair, I think obviously from the comments, there needs to be some rethinking about where the buffer is designed and located. And I think I'd rather see them continue that and come back to us with a revised plan rather than just doing it, before we issue an order.
Oh, no. We would need a revised plan. We would need a continuance on this one, Courtney.
Yeah, and I think the commission should consider the revision. In other words,
Absolutely.
Well,
so I'll ask for a continuance.
well, you can't. The applicant has to, but technically,
Yeah, true enough.
ask,
Sorry, I'm out of order.
Can ask for it to be closed and hope that we accept the plan as it is. So, Mike, it's kind of in your hands which way you'd like to go.
Yeah,
You've heard the comments.
we will request a continuance, but one other thing, I just haven't heard anyone really comment other than Commissioner Patton about your thoughts on allowing mitigation near the pool less than 10 feet. I heard comments about possibly having some ornamentals, but there was talk about it. But even on the side between the pool and the water, is there some direction you can give us on how far from the pool you want these? Considering, can you allow them to be within 5 feet of the pool?
Mike, these plants are going to get pretty big. If they're left to do what they're supposed to do, they're going to get pretty big. And then if you have them too close to the pool, it's going to force them to be cut.
Yeah, that's why I asked to consider 5 feet from the pool.
Right, but you have two separate issues with that, though, if I may. So What we're saying, Mike, is that it can't be within 10 feet of a structure for mitigation purposes. If you want to put them closer to 10 feet, you put them right up against the spa as ornamental, then that's up to you. You just have to worry about cutting them later if you want. But for them, I understand what Jen's saying is to be counted as mitigation, it wouldn't want to be any closer than 10 feet.
Right. Yeah, well, until right now, I didn't know that. I thought maybe you consider 5 feet.
Yeah, I mean, I do think some of those plants are, you know, like the chokeberry and clethra don't get as wide as some of the other things. We usually reserve those for narrow spaces. They are not going to get 10 feet wide. So, you know, my recommendation would be it could be a little narrower if we're really trying to fit stuff in here, but obviously it's up to you.
Well, see if we can get it closer to the resource area. All right, we've got a couple hands up, so bear with us. Courtney.
I don't have an issue with the applicant putting ornamental plants, non-mitigation plants near the spa, but I think they've got to relocate the stuff that we want for mitigation. They can put the stuff we want for mitigation closer to the resource area, which is my original point. And if they want to put rhododendrons or hydrangeas or something there that's ornamental, and it gets too big and they can whack it back, that's not our problem.
All right, Steve. I saw your hand up.
You covered it.
Okay. Jen?
Mike, you had said it was a raised spa. What is
Angela did.
Oh, Angela said it was a raised spa. What's the I guess, what is that elevation of that spa?
I believe it's 15 to 18 inches. There's a couple of steps shown on there. Oh, I don't know if they're on Mike's plan.
Okay.
They were on my
So
plan.
it's a structure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
Comment. No one's gonna comment on my request for 5 feet then with mitigation.
I think the board was loud and clear, Mike.
Okay. Then I guess
All
I'm
right.
requesting a continuance to July 16th because we need some time. We have to submit by July 9th.
All right.
At
Does
the
that work,
request,
Jen?
Yep, that seems to work.
at the request of the applicant, I move that we continue this to what, July 9? Is that
July 16th, please.
July 16th?
Robbins will second.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this hearing until July 16th. Last call, questions or comments? All right, we're voting on the continuance. Bill?
Duffy, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye.
David?
Kent, aye.
Matthews, aye. Ronnie?
Bowman, aye.
Russ?
Robbins, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until July 16th. Thank you, Mike. Thank you,
Thank you.
Angela.
Thank you.
Bear with me a second here. Next up, to continue the Mike Porcelli show. Next up is Michael Herzig, trustee, Michael Herzig, 2015 Family Trust, 8 Nichols Road, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to repair the existing revetment. Jen?
Yes, we still have Mike Porcelli presenting his project.
Excellent. Mr. Porcelli, you're up, sir.
Thanks again, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, Mike Porcelli, I represent Michael Herzig, the owner of the property at 8 Nichols Road. And with your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Herzig owns the property at number 8 Nichols Road. It contains just under 15,000 square feet of land. It has frontage on Wacoit Bay. It's a fully developed residential property. The properties on both sides are also fully developed residential properties. And there's an existing stone revetment that runs along the waterfront side of the property, not only on this property, but it continues on to the next door neighbor's property and beyond. On the other side, there's a sheet pile wall that blends into the stone revetment. And what the applicant has experienced over the last few years, high tides, storm tides, most notably the 2 years ago December tides that you've seen a few projects through my office to try to manage some erosion. On this particular property, the waves, if you make reference to this cross section, the waves, the tide would rise high enough and combined with some wind and waves was overtopping and starting to scour the top of this wall, which has very small kind of stone. It's like the chink stone size stone. And those got tossed around and scoured a little bit in here, and the owner's just trying to be proactive and prevent a more catastrophic failure of the wall. And it's a very tricky solution to fix it. We've met with a marine contractor, short of bringing in a barge, which is extremely expensive and could potentially be more disruptive. We try to find a way to bring in larger stones, but not so large that they need a machine that can't gain access to the site. Sounds familiar from the Lost project, but would only be able to get there by barge. So if you look at this cross section that I'm going to zoom in on for you, you can see that we're going to propose 300 to 500 pound capstones behind the larger armor stone and remove the small ones, install some filter cloth, create bedding stone to accept these larger, but still, we wish they could be larger still, but we can't get heavier stones here. So these are manageable with a size machine that can carry them in through the construction access, which is along the left side of the garage off of the driveway. We reviewed this with the marine contractor and he can gain access. This is predominantly lawn, some ornamentals along this edge. This is all lawn until you get to the top of the riprap where there's a native buffer. And that buffer goes along the entire frontage. So the only way to get the excavator close enough to reach is to temporarily remove part of the buffer in two places so that the excavator can reach and remove and then replace the stones at the top of the wall, as I showed on this cross section here. After the work is done, the native planting buffer will be reestablished. I believe it's all bayberry and it's doing well. So we have no concerns about it coming back and just restoring it when this is done. There was some staff comments. Please provide a copy of the license for the riprap. I can do that. There was a comment that I'm not really clear on about the bedding stone is proposed further landward. It wasn't really intended to do that. If it's misleading on the section, I apologize, but we can make it. Maybe it's this bedding stone here is a little bit further. This is sort of illustrative. It's not going to go further landward in a way that would interfere with the native plantings. It's intended to just remove what's the footprint of it now with the larger stones. Is the estimated extent of vegetative disturbance? Is the estimated extent of vegetated disturbance within the construction access areas? Yes. You had staff had concerns about removing it because there's a history of cutting on the site. We understand, and that I think that history is over. The owner's aware of it, as far as I know, not to do any alteration of that buffer without permission. And there was a suggestion that we install some construction fencing. The easement, the question of the easement is on the land of my client. Others have benefits of access. There's an access point to some stairs on this edge here. So we don't need permission to gain access over land under our control. That only provides easement access for others. They don't have say over how we use the area for access. We just can't block the easement from preventing them from using it for access. So it's all open grass. It'll always be there, so the access will be maintained. Finally, there's a note about a platform. It says it was recently reconstructed. I don't know anything about the reconstruction. I'd have to check with my owner and the applicant about that. It may have even been done by others. I don't know. But there were some comments on that. I'll do what I can to address those. I'd have to look into it though. Because it says the stairs have been elongated further into the water. I don't have, this staff report was my first knowledge of that. I'm happy to take questions.
Thanks, Mike. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mike, who's the contractor you met with again?
Tom Doyle.
John Doyle?
Tom Doyle.
Oh, Tommy Doyle. Okay. And Tom thinks he can build that wall without disturbing any of that vegetation.
Except for the places where we show access going in, yes. We talked about that in detail on the site with the owner.
Surgical. Okay. Yeah, we do have concerns with that buffer because I mean, that's another property that has struggled with mitigation over years. For years, those little bayberries were little balls. So it's good to see that he's letting it actually grow into a buffer, but it would really be a shame if all that vegetation had to come out and we had to start from zero again. And it looks like the platform on the stairs that were on the easement side are made of the same material on a little platform in the middle of your client's property. So I'd have a conversation with them about when that was done. Pre-construction with Tom, we'll have to have.
Yep.
And licensing, that's about it. The tree that was removed without the permit, did you address that, Mike?
No, because I didn't know anything about it.
Okay, well, we'll have to plant another one. That's all.
All right. Alyssa,
I have one question. This is Dave. Can you hear me?
who's this?
It's Dave. I have a question.
Well,
If that's
hold
okay.
on. Let the
Okay.
presentation carry out, then I'll get to the
Oh, okay.
commissioners.
Sorry about that.
Not at all. So,
Mike, just a note about the tree, if I can, Jamie.
Yep.
Thank you. Yes, it looked like a mature tree was removed in the past couple years. It does look like one was planted in its place. It's in that little mulch island by the easement on your plan. If you could just identify those two small trees and remove the polka dot for the larger tree, just to update that. The commission can determine if they'd like to see another tree or if just one-for-one replacement is satisfactory. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
all right. So David, just for protocol purposes, so
I got you. I
usually,
got you.
no, it's all good. It's all good, but just to say it out loud though, so usually at the applicant, sometimes it's like you saw in the last hearing, it was Mike and Angela. And then we go to staff and then we go to commissioner comments. So, and even if once you're given an opportunity to ask questions, you'll still get another opportunity. You'll hear me at the end where I'll ask, if there's anything additional. So even if something crops up in the middle of somebody else's comment, you'll still get another chance. So I didn't mean to cut you off there. I wasn't looking at the screen. I didn't know where the voice came from. So right now, it's your turn.
It's my turn now?
Yes, sir.
Mike, when you're moving the equipment in on the left-hand side near the easement, will there be any damage to existing plants by moving the equipment in and out of there? When I was there, it seemed pretty darn narrow over there.
It is relatively narrow. There's some ornamental plantings on that edge. They're not mitigation planting.
Okay.
They might need to be trimmed back, but I heard on the last meeting, to quote Courtney, they can hack away at ornamentals. So we may have to do a little, I don't think hacking away, maybe some pruning.
But sounds to me, I'm learning here. Sounds to me like there aren't any mitigation plans there. That means it's not an issue for us. Is that right, Jamie?
Yes.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. We still don't want to see them hack any kind of plants, but all right. Let's see, Ronnie, you're up.
You hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, the wall definitely needs to be addressed. And I think that natural buffer will get compromised if it's not fixed. How big is the areas? How wide are the work areas cutting in through that buffer, Mike? About 8 feet?
They're about 10.
2 10-foot swaths?
Yeah, 10-ish. Yep.
Okay. That's all I got.
All right. Russ.
No questions, though, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Steve.
Nothing to add, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Bill.
Nothing to add, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Courtney.
Two questions. One, Mike, the proposed fix that you've got there is all the way across the property. Is that the way it's working?
Yes.
Okay. Second thing is, I'm not an expert on riprap construction, but one of the reasons you're doing this is you're getting a lot of overwash, and so you're got to do this repair. I like the idea of putting the trap rock or whatever it is behind it to stabilize it, but being a layman on this thing, what I'm concerned about is that even in that you have a storm overwash that's going to erode behind that. Would it make sense to put some kind of a fabric behind that stone? In other words, between the stone and the fill that goes behind it, so that even if there's overwash and undermining, the fabric holds the thing in place. If you follow what I'm getting at. In other words, if you put the picture back up, the drawing back up, I'm talking about the line between the rock and the edge of the fill.
Yeah.
You follow what I mean? Yeah,
I'm
landward
showing
that.
Yeah. I have a notation to put filter cloth.
Okay.
Process.
All right. That's what I was concerned about.
Yep.
So that's good. All right.
Yep.
No other questions.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat function.
All right. Any other commissioner comments or questions? All right. What are you thinking?
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
A second, Robbins.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Last call, questions or comments? We're voting to close the hearing. Bill.
Duffy, aye.
Courtney.
Bird eye.
David.
Anti.
Matthews, aye. Ronnie.
Bowman, aye.
Russ.
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
And
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Boselli.
Thank you, and I will see you a little later. Mr. Augusta and I look forward to talking with you, giving you an update.
All right. Next up, our continued request for hearing under notice of intent. First one has been previously continued. Brings us to David and Kristen Cousins, 12 Pondview Circle, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct a deck, remove a shed, install dry wells, and install mitigation plantings. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. 1 second. I don't see the applicant. The applicant was supposed to present their project. If there is someone here to present 10 Pondview, could you please use the raise hand function so I can promote you as a panelist? Okay, Louis Lost. Mr. Lost, I don't know how you are Mr. Cousins, but okay, we are promoting you. And
For the record, this hasn't been open, so the quorum is all of us tonight.
correct, and I will be sharing my screen. The plan was done by John Doyle, and the applicant will be speaking to the board. Mr. Cousins or Mr. Lost, I'm not quite sure how to address this applicant. You need to turn on your camera and unmute yourself so we can hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, sorry, I've never used this thing before. It's David Cousins. It's just an email my son was using. I signed into this account on it. I'm still sorry. I'm trying to figure it out. Am I on now?
Well, no, we can't see you yet, sir.
Yeah. Am I on?
The video's on, so the camera must be blocked.
Okay, do you have a little on your camera? Do you have like a little toggle on the top of your on the top of your like computer? Is a laptop or computer? Is there a piece of tape or a little toggle?
It's an
on there?
iPhone. It's a sorry. Settings.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, I guess we'll just share the screen and there's something happening, Alyssa.
Start video settings. Camera.
It's just toggling between widescreen and
Oh, okay.
vertical. Yeah.
All right, Mr. Cousins, I'm going to share the screen and you can talk the board through it, okay?
God.
Okay.
Hello.
There
Sorry.
you go.
Hi. Sorry, first time doing this.
Not a problem. I'm going to share the screen for you, sir, okay? And I'm going to try to follow along with your commentary with my little toggle to show the board the areas, okay?
Okay.
Does everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Anytime you'd like to start, Mr. Cousins.
Yeah, we're looking to take some dead trees out. We're not looking to cut anything that's alive back there. We're not looking to maximize the view, so we want to leave everything alone that's nice and private. We get a good view in the winter, so we're happy with that. We just want to put in the deck off the back of the house. We want to move the small shed to the left side of the lot, sorry, the right side of the lot. We want to put a porch on the front and extend the garage.
So the porch on the front's right here
Yeah.
for the board, and there's the proposed addition on the garage.
The addition on the garage is outside the 100-foot zone anyway.
Yep.
So
And the proposed deck on the back is right here for the board. And you're going to be relocating this wood shed to where, sir?
outside the 100-foot zone on the front of the property.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to say?
We have the area for mitigation there. I think it's 960 square feet. 64 plantings, I guess. If you could email me a copy of what I can put in there for mitigation. We're putting in dry wells. We already installed gutters on the whole property. We've had them installed the other day. We're going to do the dry wells for them soon. And I guess that's it, I think.
Okay. We can, okay. Do you want me to stop sharing, Mr. Chairman? Or you want to keep this up for a bit?
No, if he's done, you can take it down, please.
Okay.
Thank you. So I'll turn it over to you, Jen.
Yes, we've been working with Mr. Doyle and Mr. Cousins on this project. It was a very overgrown and I believe neglected property.
Yeah.
When
We're still working on. There's been lots of debris and thousands of dollars in dump fees, and we nearly have it there. So.
Yep. So we've been working with them on what they can do with the property and everything. We're going to be removing some of those wood chips, correct, Mr. Cousins?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. And then we'll give you a mix of appropriate plantings. It will actually give you a plant count. So you'll know exactly how many plants you need to put on there.
I think
we'll
the
remove the
email
wood
I got
chips.
yesterday said 64 plants.
Yep. So we'll have 64 plants, and we'll give you a kind of a mix of 4, 5, 6 species. You can do like a mixture of.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's it for me, Mr. Chairman.
Alyssa.
Just a note for the board. I had a question on the mitigation calculation, so I can reach out to John for clarification on that. Mr. Cousins, are you intending on keeping the gravel sitting area around the fire pit that's on site?
We've cut it back. John changed it on the plan. We've cut it back to it's just a small. I think it's like 2 feet of a buffer zone around just for fire prevention. So we've cut it back from I think it was like 6, 7 feet around it, but we already did that and it's on the plan now.
Okay. I'm just gonna. Yeah, so for the commission, when we were on site, we just noticed there was an unpermitted fire pit there with a larger seating area. For our non-new commissioners, as we know, we've been talking about fire pits in zone A's and moving closer. So just putting that out there. And then I think you had just mentioned that you're going to be working on the dry wells soon. We'll add that to your permit paperwork here. So I would just wait until we can issue this for you so you have a permit for everything, and then you can go ahead and install them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, commissioner comments. I'm going to start. It looks like there's a lot of work going on there already. I mean, even without the benefit of the permit. So can we get the limit of work installed like as soon as possible? Get some erosion control in there. And certainly wait for your permit before you start digging dry wells.
Yeah.
Ronnie.
No comment.
Russ.
Do you know how many dry wells you're going to put in yet?
I think John said 4.
Okay.
So we can confirm that.
I've got nothing else, Mr. Chairman.
Steve.
No, I don't have any comments. Thank you.
All right. Bill.
No comments at this time.
All right. Courtney.
No comments.
David.
No comments.
Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat comment, Mr. Chairman. And just to follow up on Russ's comment, 2 of those dry wells, Russ, are
I can't
outside
hear
of
you, Jen.
jurisdiction.
Can you turn your volume?
Yeah.
Nope.
You're just kind of soft.
Yeah, the volume's low.
And I didn't change the volume.
Talk like you're mad at Dawn.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Just to follow up on Russ's comments, 2 of the dry wells, Russ, are outside of jurisdiction and 2 are on the corner of the house. And we'll work with Mr. Cousins, Jamie, to get that limit of work installed ASAP.
Please.
Yeah.
I will make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second, Robbins.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Last call, questions or comments? All right, we're voting to close the hearing. Bill,
Duffy, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
David,
And I.
Matthews, aye. Ronnie,
Bowman, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
And
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Cousins.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right, next one's been previously continued, as has the next. Brings us to Ronaldo Andrade, 0 Central Avenue, map and parcel ID is 32-04-004-002, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a single-family dwelling and install a Title V sewage disposal system on an undeveloped lot. Jen?
Yes, can the board hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I have promoted Jake Fricky from Cape and Islands Engineering to present his project. Jake, is there anybody else I'm promoting up for you tonight?
Yeah, Jen, could you also please promote Brian Wall?
Oh, absolutely. Sorry about that, Brian. I forgot you were a part of this project team. Sorry about that, Jake.
No worries.
All right, Mr. Fricky, you're up, sir.
Right. Good evening. My name is Jake Fricky. I'm a professional land surveyor with Cape and Islands Engineering, representing Ronaldo Andrade for a project on Central Avenue. As we've just discussed, Attorney Brian Wall is also here with us to help support this presentation. We filed notice of intent application 25-5082 to construct a dwelling on the property. And with your permission, Commissioner, I would like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right, excellent. So this project may appear familiar to some of you, as it is a modification of a project that was previously withdrawn. And in response to comments that we received in those hearings, we're showing a relocation of the proposed driveway. This project is proposed on a vacant parcel, which is in the sort of northerly section of Central Avenue. The surrounding resource areas include land under the ocean and land containing shellfish in Eel Pond, a salt marsh which wraps around and up to the north, a BVW which extends off of the salt marsh into this low area here, a coastal bank which wraps around here, exits the lot, and then comes back and then goes off the lot to the north. Land subject to coastal storm flowage, we have the velocity zone elevation 14, an AE 12, an X 0.2%, and zone X. The limit of moderate wave action follows the velocity zone line along through here, and then it exits off of the lot to the north. We have also a 25-foot buffer from the velocity zone, a 100-foot FWR A zone buffer from the salt marsh, a 50-foot FWR A zone from the BVW, a 50-foot FWR A zone from this coastal bank, and a 100-foot FWR zone B buffer from the BVW, as well as a 100-foot FWRB zone from this portion of the coastal bank over here. This project is being proposed on a primarily undeveloped lot, which is partially wooded, and it consists of about 4 acres, which has an existing vehicle track that runs through the center of the lot, through here, down to a turnaround by the top of the coastal bank along Eel Pond. The proposed development includes a 4-bedroom single-family dwelling with attached deck, garage, a pool patio, and a driveway, which leads back across the lot to Central Ave. At the closest point, the rear steps of the house here are 13 feet from the limit of work and 14 feet from the FWR A-zone line, which runs across through here. We're showing an AI septic system to service the house, which is entirely out of the buffer zones. The B zone line runs up and then back down through here, and the entire system is outside of that area. We're also showing some dry wells and a pool drawdown dry well over here. We've included a row of privacy screening along this boundary to provide separation between the proposed development and these existing structures over here. This house in particular is rather close to the property line. In our former submission, we were proposing a driveway that ran about 20 feet off the sideline of the lot up and through along this way, but based on commission input and comments, we've relocated the driveway to have the first 300 feet or so run along the existing vehicle track, at which point it curves and then runs parallel to the sideline of the lot out to Central Ave. The driveway is proposed to have a drainage system here, which can handle a 25-year storm. And based on discussions with staff, we're showing this driveway to be paved, which will help stabilize the bank and limit erosion and runoff from the vehicle traffic. The driveway grading is shown to be consistent with the existing grades across the slope on both sides to minimize the potential for any retention of runoff on the land south of the driveway. Please note that the existing vehicle track predates the Wetland Protection Act as well as local bylaw, and it is, in our opinion, to be a grandfathered use. Town assessor records indicate that the original structure, which is still in existence up on this lot, which is now a separate parcel, was built in about 1900, and Falmouth aerial imagery taken in 1960 and 1968 both clearly show this vehicle track running across the lot. I have that image off to the side and can show it if you would like to see that. A letter from Mark Dibb, professional engineer in our office here at Cape and Islands, was also submitted as part of our application package, which goes through the state and local performance standards for coastal banks and identifies how this project meets them. And it is our opinion that this project is similar to other projects that have existing structures or existing features that predate the Wetlands Protection Act and Falmouth wetland regulations, and therefore the use and improvement of the path as proposed is not setting a precedent, and it is just simply improving an existing historical condition. There's a limit of work which runs along the southerly side of the proposed driveway up along here, down to the property line, along the edge of the property line, around the house, and then back along the north side of the driveway out beyond the FWR B-zone line. As all of the work that we've shown, except for some restoration planting over here, is outside of the FWR A-zone, and that area will remain fully vegetated, no mitigation is proposed, aside from the restoration of this area of the turnaround, which is 967 square feet. I will now address staff comments that we received June 3rd. Staff indicates that in their opinion, a coastal bank is a continuous landform and should be treated with a uniform buffer. And in particular, it is with regards to this portion of the coastal bank here. In this case, this portion of the coastal bank in question runs adjacent to the BVW here, and then departs to the south, running completely off of the lot. and then extends back to the north again, where it then rejoins with the edge of the BVW and extends north off of the lot. At its furthest point over here, the bottom of the coastal bank is 175 feet from the edge of the BVW here. While it's well known that that adjacent is considered to be close or near to something, there is no definition of adjacent in the Falmouth Wetlands bylaw. We do note that in FWR 10.185A 4A, that it states the width of a no disturbance zone shall be 25 feet for non-eroding coastal banks, not in a velocity zone with a slope greater than 4:1 and not adjacent to other wetland resource areas as defined in FWR 10.02 1A through E, but within 100 feet of other coastal resource areas as defined in FWR 10.02. This indicates that adjacent, while yet undefined, is considered by the bylaw to be some distance less than 100 feet. And we feel that as this bank clearly departs from the BVW and runs 175 feet south and exits the lot before coming back again, it is not adjacent and should not be shown as having a uniform buffer. This type of variable resource buffer has been approved before in a 2021 project at 188 Gansett Road, as well as a 2010 project at 94 Oyster Pond Road. In both of these cases, the buffers from the top of the coastal bank changed depending on whether or not the bank was adjacent to another resource area. Staff also comments that the commission will need to determine if the proposed driveway can be permitted through the resource area, which is obviously the driveway running up and down this coastal bank. And as identified previously, the driveway does run across the bank, but so does this existing track, which predates the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Staff has expressed some concerns with the limit of work, primarily where it is very close to the A zone here, and that there are some trees that are just outside of that, there are some concerns that those trees may be impacted in the course of construction. We assure you that the client understands that this work is not to, there's no work to be performed outside the limit of work. And any trees or other existing natural vegetation that's over here outside the limit of work is to remain intact through the course of construction and after the construction is complete. The last comment is that there's a small metal boat down here in the salt marsh, and we can certainly remove that boat as part of the project. It's our understanding that that boat may actually be owned by the Perrys, who sold the lot to our client now, and we can orchestrate getting that boat moved. We believe that we've demonstrated that this project complies with the Falmouth Wetland Bylaw and is consistent with previously approved projects. At this point, I'll stop sharing my screen and give Brian Wall a chance to have any input here.
Thanks, Jake.
Mr.
Wall, you're up, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, and through the chair, may I just make a couple of quick comments? I think that Mr. Frick covered pretty much everything, so I'll be very, very brief. I simply wanted to emphasize that there was a prior application and the property owner wanted to put the driveway parallel to that southerly property line. But there was some comments back from the commission that was not preferred by the commission. So that's why the application was withdrawn, and it's been reproposed as you saw it. The suggestion, I believe, from staff was to put the driveway in the existing vehicle tracks. And as Mr. Frick said, we have aerial photos, and the fact that the house was there since 1900 essentially confirms that the tracks were there prior to the adoption of the bylaw, which was in 1979. So we would suggest that we've heard the commission's comments and we've responded. And then insofar as the performance standards, the narrative is very thorough in support of the NOI. And again, as Mr. Frick mentioned, Mark Dibb, a professional engineer of Cape and Islands, submitted a memorandum categorically going through all the performance standards, and he is of the firm opinion that the improvements to the tracks in the area of the bank meet the performance standards. Particularly, it will not disturb the or adversely affect the stability of the bank. And so based on that, we would ask the commission to approve the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. First, I'm not quite sure the suggestion came from us, but it could have been a discussion we had, but in no way is the staff endorsing a paved driveway over a coastal bank. Not particularly in agreement with the analysis about the coastal bank buffer. We've seen this kind of real nitpicky delineations before, and although Jake cited 2 cases that I can't comment on because this is the first I've heard of them, and the staff would need time to evaluate those cases so we can either agree with his analysis or not, or whether or not this was done. 188 Gansett had 2 resource areas coming in multiple lines. It could have been missed. 2 wrongs do not make a right. We think that coastal banks are a continuous landform and should be treated as such. We still have a real concern about the tightness of this property. Those trees overhang this property. How Mr. Ronaldo is going to build a house and not prune those trees, I don't see how it's possible. Those are no disturbance zone A. This property has no breathing room, no outdoor space besides the pool. And they are just, I really have concerns that zone A buffer is going to be impacted, encroached on in the future. I mean, it's impossible to have a property and have a complete buffer zone within 10, 12 feet of that house and not have it be impacted. It's just not realistic. So the board will have to decide if you want to see a paved driveway over that coastal bank. Yes, there's no disputing that vehicle track has been there since the 60s. Aerial photos don't lie. We always say that. But to pave it, sink dry, drainage improvements into it when this is a very large property and this house could be sited in a number of other locations. Again, we have concerns about the future of the property. That's all, Mr. Chairman. Oh, but I would like the opportunity to, review the 2 cases that Mr. Fricke mentioned. We have not done that.
Okay, should I count down?
If you
All
want.
right. Alyssa.
Nothing to add at this time. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments. Ronnie, I'm throwing you under the bus.
I was on the site with Alyssa and I saw the tree issue, but there's a lot of trees in that area. Some are right on the line and some trees aren't going to be able to grow. I think it can be done with the amount of room they have there. That's my feeling.
Russ.
Yeah, I gotta agree with Jen. That is really it's gonna be tight. I mean, and if we were to permit this, I mean, there would have to be some really tight, construction control. It is very tight. And I do have my doubts about it being within that construction control area. So I'm glad that they went back to the original driveway or car path, whatever you want to call it. I'm not sure about the paving though. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Steve.
Yeah, I appreciate the effort from, was this before us on the 4th of June? No? Anyway, the change in the driveway, I understand the historical references. I'll have to take Russ's words and others' words on the concern about the buffer there, but it's a big lot. There seems to be opportunities somewhere on this lot, but apparently this is their ideal location, so it's going to be tough.
Bill.
Nothing further than sort of an agreement with the rest of the commission and commissioners of what they've been saying.
All right, Courtney.
I understand Jen's concerns and they're real. And if we were to approve this project, we would have to condition it very tightly, number one. And unfortunately, it also would put burden on staff, I think, to make sure that the conditions that we had were adhered to. I don't have the same concerns as Jen does about the paved driveway. Actually, I think by paving it, you're in a better position to be able to control stormwater flow and that kind of thing, as opposed to using dense grade or gravel or that kind of stuff, which in a gully wash storm, such as we had about a month and a half ago with an inch and a half of rain, if you had any kind of thing that wasn't asphalt, it would just wash out and you'd have a mess on your hands. In looking at this thing in a broader sense, I know we're not considering the future of this parcel beyond this one application. But it's my understanding from previous presentations that the intent is to further subdivide the lot in the back area. So my question now becomes, does that driveway become the common access for the subdivision lots? And if so, will it meet the zoning requirements? I would presume you need a 20-foot wide pavement and 10 feet on either side, I think is the usual thing. And so I think my curiosity is piqued here, and maybe it doesn't have anything directly to do with the application at hand, but I think we also need to look at down the road on this. So could you guys comment on that?
Yeah, certainly. At this time, there's no applications before planning board to divide the lot further. The client is interested in ensuring that this project is able to move forward, and then at some future time will reconsider the other development. As you can see, by way of running the driveway the way that it is, it cuts right across the middle of everything, and so that was.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I mean that's a big lot, and so you could divide it in half, what's remaining, and put two houses in there, or probably even three. So, but I realize we're not considering this, but we may see this project in another form again. And what I'm saying is, if we're going forward with this, I would like to see the big picture, frankly.
Oh, it's not in front of us.
I know it's not in front of us, but I'm just concerned about where we're going with this. And there's nothing I can do as far as this project. I mean, obviously you have to approve it or deny it on its merits, but I still look at the bigger picture here, because the bigger picture is if you're gonna subdivide it down the road, you're gonna need that road has got to meet zoning requirements as 20-foot layout, 20-foot wide roadway, and a 40-foot layout. And that's not what you're asking for.
Because that's not the application in front of us, Courtney.
No, I understand.
No, I hear what you're saying.
I have no other questions. I'm raising the issue because I'm the resident curmudgeon. Thank you.
Duly noted. All right. David. You're up. You're on mute.
I was muted. Sorry. Nothing further.
Okay. All right. So I don't disagree with what Courtney said, but it's not the application in front of us. All I would say is that any concern would be what goes beyond that coastal bank. So if that road was being used up to but not over that coastal bank, then it's a non-issue for us. But again, that's a future application. The last hearings we implied that if they use that old cart path that, that would be certainly more acceptable than a new area. So,
Mhm.
so that's good. Whether it's paved or how it's paved is, I don't know. It has merits to be, to be asphalt for what Courtney said, and it's be nice to see it remain as stone. But as far as it being there, that's kind of what we wanted. Well, as opposed to nothing. And the limit of work is, it's 14 feet to the A zone. So we require 10 feet. They've covered it. There we are. So that's my 2 cents that Jen didn't want. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
A second, Robbins.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Commissioner, any more questions or comments? Jake
I guess I'll say, if there is some concern about that limit of work, we can work with the commission and with staff to do some sort of tree wrapping or they do like strapping with the orange bundling around them. Trees are retained within limits of work very regularly and are able to survive that kind of abuse. And so to me, it seems that we should be able to ensure that trees outside of the limit of work are able to be to survive the work.
My concern, Jake, is the impacts of the branches on the house. But we'll figure that one out, because if one tree gets pruned in the A zone, that might be cause for stopping a project. Just letting you know.
All right, anything else? All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. We're voting to close the hearing. Bill?
Duffy, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
David?
And I.
Matthews, aye. Ronnie?
Bowman, aye.
Russ?
Robbins, aye.
Steve?
And I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jen, I'm going to be up on the Westwood.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I got you, Brian.
Thank you.
Night, Jake.
Good night. Thank you.
All right, next up is a request for a certificate of compliance. Lucy Greer, 77 Barneck Road, Falmouth, Mass. Request for a certificate of compliance for Mass DEP number 25-4548. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am promoting Doug Schneider up.
All right, before we start, let's explain to the new commissioners what we're doing here.
Okay, so this is a request for a certificate. Let me promote Jeff Nickerson up as well, because I know he's on here. 1 second, Mr. Chairman. Okay, so I've promoted Doug Schneider up. Hello, Doug from Cape and Islands Engineering, and Jeff Nickerson from Oppenheim and Nickerson Law Firm. So this is a request for a certificate of compliance. Usually requests for certificates of compliance, at least when I first started 20 years ago, they were handled internally by the staff. We approve it, the board will sign them, and we'll issue them. If the staff feels that we cannot issue compliance for whatever reason, the applicant has the right to request a hearing before the board in order to gain compliance. And that's the case here. There are certain aspects of this project that the staff felt, we feel they weren't met in accordance with the plan that was presented to the board. The applicant feels that they are in compliance, so they have requested a hearing before you. What will happen is Alyssa will present the case, Doug and Jeff will present their case. We will continue the matter so the board can receive all the information, go out to the site yourselves, look at the site, and then at a later hearing, you can let us know whether or not you feel the property is in compliance with the order and the plan that you approved and issued. If any of the newer commissioners have questions about that after, Alyssa and I would be happy to explain it again if I was not clear. Does that work, Jamie?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So
All right.
I guess we'll start and then.
Okay, Alyssa.
Thank you. Yes. So this COC before you was for a multifaceted project. The deck on this property was reconstructed, fencing was replaced, and invasive species removal and restoration, both on the dune system of this property and across the street, took place. There's only one aspect that the staff is having difficulty granting compliance on, and that is the dune restoration. And as Jen said, I will send you all the plan, the appropriate order of conditions, and all that information tomorrow about it. So the dune restoration that was approved by this board a couple years ago involved removing invasive species such as bittersweet, Rosa rugosa, and shrub honeysuckle, restoring them with native shrubs and beach grass. Over the years, due to drought conditions and just the aggressive nature of the beach grass, a lot of the shrubs have struggled to survive. We've been working with Doug Schneider, the homeowner, and their restoration team to work through this for the past couple years. The shrubs, in the staff's opinion, are just still struggling. They're still very small. They're being overshadowed quite literally by the beach grass. Because this dune, as seen in the attached photos, was primarily shrubbish back then, and now it's very much beach grass. The composition has really changed. It is very well vegetated. It's just not per the approved plan because the shrub matter is not there. And if it is there, it's very, very small and really not contributing to the functions that were expected of it. So we're looking for the commission's insight at this time. If it turns out that the commission is pleased with the amount of vegetation and restoration that has taken place and would like to issue this certificate of compliance, we will write up the paperwork for it. It will be good for us to remember this going forward for future dune restorations, knowing that this is a possibility where when we take out that shrub matter, it might not come back. And we'll need to figure out if we are okay with that. And I think that sums it up at this time.
Thank you. Doug, do you want to begin on your side?
Certainly. Good evening, everyone. Doug Schneider with Cape and Islands Engineering, as well as Jeff Nickerson, attorney here on behalf of the owner of 77 Barneck Road. As Alyssa said, this project has been going on for about 5 years now. Originally permitted in 2000 with an order of conditions. If you like, I can share my screen just for a couple of orientation pictures and the like as I run through a quick history,
Sure.
give you an idea where we are. If that works for you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Thank you.
Let's see if I get to the right spot here. All righty, so 77 Barneck Road is just before Penzance Road in Woods Hole area. Just to give you a feel for the area we're dealing with, it's basically a dune separating the two landforms where Penzance Road is in the Woods Hole area. The house is just before the guard shack that leads into Penzance. The area that was rebuilt, reconstructed, revegetated is this primary dune that's directly north of the house. And that's the primary area of concern. The deck was rebuilt. There was some other vegetation management done on the south side of the road that she also owns. We'd actually applied for a certificate of compliance 2 years ago in 2023. It was found at that time the issues were the same as we're dealing with right now. We filed the order at that point was expiring, so we actually filed a request for determination to allow for continued planting and management of the area while we try and get it into compliance here. We've gone through 2 winters again and summers, and the feeling is that, as Alyssa indicated, that the shrubs are being overpowered by the beach grass that is rather healthy and doing well. It's serving the function of protecting the dune. I'll skip through all the plans just because I know that you'll have them, and Jen will send them, or Alyssa will send them to you. Just a couple of quick pictures of what the area looks like now. It's doing well and healthy. There were small shrubs that were planted, as she indicated. They are struggling in the beach area, in the beach grass. And so we're looking for some guidance from the commission to see if we can close this out for the applicant. And I think that's all I've got.
All right. Jeff, do you have anything you'd like to add at this point?
Not at this time, no.
Okay. All right. So I'll hand it back to you, Jen, but I just want to say that basically we're being asked if we can accept the grasses as they are, as it is. I don't know what's proper English there. I mean, that's really the only outstanding issue that we have right at this point. So, all right, Jen, you had something?
No, just for I mean, older commissioners know, but for the newer commissioners, we'll send you the original notice, all the original pictures, the order, all of that. The board now goes out, looks at the property yourselves, determines whether you want to issue compliance, and then bring us your decision back at the continued hearing. And as Alyssa said, if the board wants to issue compliance, we'll be happy to write up the paperwork.
All right, Jen, let me ask you guys, I know this is a tough one, but what's the chances this grass is successful in what it's doing? I mean, there's no reason to think it's going to deteriorate, right?
No, it's just not offering the same habitat value as the original proposal. This was a lot of Rosa rugosa and shrub materials, and now it's just one big primary dune with 90%, if not more, of just beach grass. That was not the intent of the project. That's not the way it was presented to the commission. I think we even had some concerns at the beginning that this might happen. And the shrubs just, they just wouldn't take. And as Alyssa said, this is a good case study for the board to see how aggressive this beach grass is, and that if we do have another dune restoration project where they want to remove invasives or Rosa rugosa, that we really do need to minimize the beach grass that's being planted, because it really is very, very aggressive.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
if I could, the Wilkinson Environmental, who's been managing this, they have tried replanting several of the shrubs multiple times, and trying to manage them and keeping them to get them to grow. And it's just the grass has just overpowered everything there, and in doing what it's supposed to do. Then one thing we would add or ask if possible is when the members of the commission go out to visit the site, that we get just a heads up to let the owner know. She is here now for the summer, and she gets a little.
Well, you should instruct her that
people
there's going to be
around.
commissioners floating in and out for the next couple of weeks till the next hearing. It's not practical for us to call you and give you notice. I mean, some of us work for a living, so.
That we will let her know accordingly. Thank you.
I mean, I always ask our commissioners, go to the door and knock and announce yourself, but I mean, that's about the best you could really do. And if she wants approval, then, you know, she has to understand that there's going to be 7 people going out there to take a look. And I was there today. It's quite simple to take a look. It's not invasive at all. So that's what I would
She
say
has no
about that.
issue there's no issue with people walking through the property. It's just so she's not surprised. That's all.
Yeah, and I hear you. It's really difficult because it's, you know, some of us just go when we have the time to go. Maybe if we're in the area, what have you. Again, I just ask all our commissioners, just, you know, go up, knock on the door and announce yourself. I don't know what else to say. So I'm going to poll the commissioners, see if there's anybody has any questions or concerns before we take the next step. So I'm just going to ask everybody. So, Bill, questions or comments?
Not at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I know. Without seeing it, it's tough, but I'm going to ask anyway. Courtney?
I go by that particular property probably 2 or 3 times a week. And I can attest to the fact that that is a really exposed area. And so my gut feeling is, you know, when left to its own devices, Mother Nature finds its own balance. And if the balance that Mother Nature seems to have found there is that dune grass works the best, are you going to be really forcing the issue by trying to put up mitigation plantings that meet our requirements that in fact don't want to survive there? And so, I mean, that's just an observation. I'm happy to go down there and take a look. But I mean, I think this is different than, you know, most of the issues of compliance that we face, where we're asking, we're going out and this conventional mitigation plantings put in, and the staff goes out and checks that they're there and surviving when they want compliance. This is a situation where we put the plantings that we're recommending don't want to live there. And so I'm sympathetic to the homeowners' pleas here for consideration. That's all.
Yeah, and you know, staff pointed out this is a case and study, so you know.
And it's not mitigation, Courtney. It was a dune restoration project.
Yeah.
And Wilkinson is a professional that has worked all over Cape Cod, southern New England, and knows what can happen. We're providing the board, again, this is a case study for the new commissioners. When you want to remove Rosa rugosa, and these restoration companies are telling you it's invasive, but it's all over Falmouth. If you have a stabilized dune, then maybe we should rethink, you know, allowing these types of projects to happen, because it's not the only one where we've seen grasses take over everything. Carrie Lane.
I'm sorry. I'll wait and be recognized. I'm sorry.
No, but I'm warning the board. You know, these restoration companies push these grasses for a reason. They know they're aggressive. They know they can outcompete. And then they come back and say, oh, the shrubs didn't make it. The grasses outcompeted everything. That's exactly what they want. I'm just warning the board. This is going to happen again. So, but we will write whatever the board would like us to write.
So you say, Courtney, did you have something else?
No, we will.
So, was there a lot of Rosa rugosa there? I mean, this is project.
Courtney, I'd have to go back and look at it again. We will send you all the information.
Yeah. I mean, I realize it's not totally germane to the thing, but I know at one point, I've been on this commission long enough to know that when we used to do mitigation, we would say, you know, X, Y, Z, plant this. And we included Rosa rugosa until somebody decided it was invasive. But Rosa rugosa loves these kinds of tough environments. And I'm wondering if we shouldn't rethink our opposition to that, because Rosa rugosa survives that kind of environment very well. Anyway, that's my commentary, and I'll move on.
Sure you will. Ronnie.
No comment.
Smart man. Russ.
I got nothing right now, Mr. Chairman.
Steve.
Yeah, it's worth a look, but it looks pretty good to me.
All right, so I think, Doug, what you're gonna wanna do is request a continuance that's gonna allow the commissioners to go out, take a look for themselves and kind of decide if we're gonna accept the grasses as it is, or if we're gonna, stick to the original plan, right? Did I say that right, Jen?
Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
So how long of a continuance would you feel comfortable with?
I think we'd have to do maybe the 16th, Doug. That will give the board at least, hang on, let me grab my calendar. I don't believe we're meeting the 9th, and I think next Wednesday's too soon for everybody to be able to get out there. So our next available would be the 16th.
I know I have a commitment on the 16th already. Are you meeting on the 23rd?
If you wanted to be the 23rd, that's fine. I was just trying to minimize the time that your client would have people stopping by their house. And if any one of the commissioners does want to let us know when they might be able to go there, we can let Doug know.
Is that to Jeff, is the 23rd all right, do you think, versus the 16th? Said I can't make the 16th.
23rd should be fine, yeah.
Yeah. The request of the applicant, I move that we continue this hearing until the 23rd of July.
Patton second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this till July 23rd. Last call, questions or comments? We're voting on the continuance, Bill.
Duffy, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye.
David?
Grant, aye.
Matthews, aye. Ronnie?
Bowman, aye.
Russ?
Robbins, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We've continued this till July 23rd. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much for your time.
Good night, Doug. Good night, Jeff.
Mr. Chairman, before they go,
Thanks all.
Oh,
Yes, Steve?
is unless this is there's a significant reason to get this done, if the landowner's going to be gone in September, is there any reason not to delay it until that time?
Doug, what do you think? Jeff?
I think she would like to get it to put this behind her at this point.
Okay. Just an
If we
offer.
can I think we'd like just to move forward if we can.
Okay.
Agreed, yes.
Us bigger
Okay.
guys worry about that stuff, scaring people.
The visits are going to be
Steve,
non-invasive.
just let us
so
know,
it's-
and we'll let Doug know when you're gonna go out there.
All right. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Jeff.
Good night, gentlemen.
Thanks, guys.
Next up are continued hearings under an enforcement order. 58 Westwood Road LLC, care of Robert Martin. 58 Westwood Road, Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted construction of a shed and removal of vegetation within the buffer to a coastal bank and a coastal dune. Alyssa.
Thank you. I believe Jen is bringing up the representatives. I know Brian Wall is here to represent the homeowner.
All right, Jen.
Yep, I'm getting Brian and Mike Borselli.
I don't know.
He's here for
Yeah.
Oyster Shell, Mike. You don't need to promote him right now.
Oh, sorry, Mike. Oh, where's... I saw Maria, now she's gone. Sorry, Brian, Maria was in here and now she's gone.
Okay, I should be able to handle it tonight, Jen.
Okay.
Mr. Wall, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I represent the property owners in this matter, Mr. and Mrs. Robert Martin. This has been kind of kicking around for a while, but I first got involved in this back in December. The staff wrote the Martins a letter on November 26th stating that an enforcement hearing would be convened because of a lack of action. I won't go through all the details, but just briefly, I wrote a letter on December 9th, or maybe it was an email, stating that I had just been retained and I had some scheduling problems and a vacation over the holidays planned. So I requested a continuance, and it was granted until January 21st. During that period of time, I began gathering some information. I requested staff to send me the permit file and the plans, which staff very graciously did. I also met with my clients on the property, or I should say I didn't meet with the clients. They were in Florida, but I went to their property with their permission. Once I had a handle on the facts, I made a recommendation to the property owner to hire a restoration specialist to develop a restoration plan. And long story short, the first proposal that came in was significantly more expensive than was being expected. So we requested a further continuance and then one or two more. And during that particular time, the property owners have been obtaining proposals. They obtained a total of 3. The process was somewhat elongated by the fact that they winter in Florida, and when we were making the final decision as to who to hire, the Martins wanted to be present, and so we had a meeting just after Memorial Day with Maria Hickey, and Maria Hickey has since been retained and is in the process of preparing a notice of intent with a restoration plan, which will also include some invasive species removal and management. And so essentially, it's taken a long time, but I would respectfully suggest to the commission that the property owners are being responsive. They retain me. They have Maria Hickey under contract at this time, a signed contract. So we would ask for a continuance into July or August so that we can have time to submit this notice of intent.
Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to turn it over to Alyssa to kind of brief the board on what this enforcement matter is all about. He skipped her.
No, I started with her. You took over. Alyssa.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. It's very brief. The staff had received a complaint a couple years ago about the unpermitted construction of a shed. We were able to stop the construction midway. The shed simply was located within the buffer, would have required a permit and mitigation, and we weren't quite sure if there was room for that mitigation. There were a couple delays. We are still waiting to review a survey of the property, but it sounds like that shed construction will no longer be pursued, and I believe that shed has been removed from the property. That said, in the process, we did review an old order of conditions going back to the 90s when I believe it was the house construction. It's been a minute, but I think that was the project. There was a condition where the existing natural buffer on the seaward side of the house was to remain protected and intact. In review of aerial photos, much of it has been removed. So at this time, too, we are seeking that that buffer is restored. It looks like back in the day, it was very, very close to the home. Per your typical regulations, we wouldn't recommend that that buffer is restored within 10 feet of the home to allow for regular maintenance. And that is what Maria Hickey will be working on is restoration of that buffer. There is potential that some of the dune was removed during this process, so we'd like to evaluate that as well. Brian, it sounds like Maria is working on a separate application to restore everything as opposed to proceeding with the enforcement matter and issuing an enforcement order on the project. Would your client be open to the commission visiting the site to gain an understanding of it, or is it ideal to wait until that permit application is filed?
Well, we'd be happy to have the commission out if the commission would like to come visit the property, but I will represent that Maria Hickey was tasked with preparing a notice of intent as expeditiously as possible. And the property owner, I should mention, did have Cape and Islands prepare a survey plan. So it's not like we have to wait for the survey. We expect to file this. I don't want to over represent or over promise, but I'm hoping within the next 2 to 3 weeks, the NOI will be filed. So with that information, it might be better to wait to see what we're proposing so that the site visit can do double duty, because that will be coming in.
Sure. And for that existing conditions plan, if there were any discrepancies on it, or if the commission would like to see the restoration or more information on that plan. Are Cape and Islands retained, or would the applicant reach back out at that time if corrections were needed?
I think they have to reach back out. Cape and Islands was retained and did prepare a plan, but they're not currently part of the team. So I'd have to get the client to authorize that. But again, I want to represent to the commission that there is action being taken. We're being responsive. So if the commission wants something, and you just ask me, and I'll do my best to provide it.
Thank you. That's all I have for now.
All right. So a continuance would be prudent at this point, no? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So Brian, what are you looking for, do you think?
Could I have, Mr. Chairman, until the 23rd or even into August? I think it might become kind of mooted, or we could track the enforcement order with the NOI hearing, and deal with them in a pair, maybe. So
yeah, I think so. I mean, if it's a new notice, then it would supersede the notice would cover that anyway.
Right. That's our intent. So I guess just to be safe, how about July 30th or one of the first hearings in August?
We're not meeting on the 30th, Brian, so it'll be August 6th.
That would be great if the board
just to let you know, Brian, there is a very good possibility that dune was removed. So I would suggest looking into some older topography with LiDAR. I don't know if you can do it with LiDAR, but you're gonna need to know what that topo was.
We will definitely look into that. I read the staff report. I don't remember that being brought up, so that's why I didn't mention anything about that, but we will certainly look into that.
Yeah. It's definitely buffered to a dune and possibly dune.
Yeah, I have been out to the site a couple of times, so I know that when you walk from the coastal beach landward, there's a hill mound or ridge. So it could be a dune.
Yep.
So Jen, would it be smarter to have this continuance into July so that would compel them to get that notice prepared? You could always continue it again, no?
Yeah, we could do July 23rd if the board wants to move this along, because it has been actually out there for quite a while, or August 6th. Those are the two available.
I defer to the commission. I think we're certainly sure to deliver by the 6th. We'll do our best if you put it on the 23rd.
All right. Jen, the 6th?
Yeah, I'd just give them the time with the 6th.
At the request of the applicant, I request continuance on this hearing until the 6th of August.
Anyone for a second? Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this enforcement matter until August 6th. Last call, questions or comments? We're voting on the continuance. Bill?
Duffy, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
David?
And aye.
Matthews, aye. Ronnie?
Bowman, aye.
Russ?
Robbins, aye.
Steve?
And I.
It is unanimous. We've continued this until August 6th. Thank you, Mr. Wall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the commission. Nice to see some new faces. I look forward to working with everybody over the coming months. Thank you.
Good night, Brian. Oh, wait, Brian, you're not here for the next one, are you?
Oh, that was it for me, Jen. Thank you very much.
All right. You have a nice night, Brian.
You guys too. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Stephen Augusta, 33 Oyster Shell Lane, East Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted removal of mitigation plantings and unpermitted installation of hardscape within conservation jurisdiction. Jen.
Yes, I am promoting Mike Borselli and Mr. Augusta up to address this enforcement.
Right. Mr. Borselli, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, for the record, Mike Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, representing the applicant, along with Stephen Augusta, who's here tonight with me.
Good evening.
This is a continued enforcement hearing, the purpose of which was to bring you up to date on where we are and to talk about some options for the mitigation planting. To bring you up to speed, I hope you've all visited the site. It was the original required mitigation area was staked. We had met with staff earlier this spring or late spring, early summer. We brought you up to speed at a previous hearing and asked to be continued to tonight. Subsequent to that hearing, we reached out to Crawford Land Management, Angela Tanner, and set up a meeting and met with her on site and walked her through the issues related to this. And she has put together a proposal, and we will be moving forward. We had said at the last hearing that when this is resolved, we hope that we can plant in the fall, because we're setting ourselves up for failure to be planting in the heat of the summer. So we're working towards that goal to do fall planting. And I would like to share my screen and just talk through some ideas now that I'm hoping you've all been to the property. So with your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
So I'm sharing with you the most recent plan as built. I know there's some updated staff comments about some things that I think we can address on the plan when we ultimately submit the revised plan to you. But on analyzing the requirement for the mitigation planting, there was a 5,000 square foot mitigation requirement. And I recognize from recent staff comments that there might be a need for some additional mitigation because of some additional pavement in a B zone. We may choose to convert that from pavement to crushed stone, because your regulations don't require mitigation for crushed stone and B zones. But there's three wetland resources of note. There's the salt marsh, which has a 100-foot no disturbance zone. There's a bordering vegetated wetland, and there's actually also a coastal bank. The coastal bank is a fingal-like projection that projects up into the site. So this area is actually a wetland resource, and it's a coastal bank. It's non-eroding, but it is a coastal bank. So the original 5,000 square feet of planting that is shown with the red line work here was flooded out, and the majority of it died because of the flooding. A lot of the planting wasn't appropriate. Angela Tanner had some ideas about what plant material to use here. We've come up with an idea for the 5,000 square feet where it would be placed in two different places within the some of it in the buffer to the BVW and some of it on the actual coastal bank to buffer this woodland here. So this is an idea that came to light, and Mr. Augusta is here to talk a little bit more about that. We know there's some other staff comments that we're going to chip away at this, and we're going to work this out and submit a revised plan. But we wanted to update you and talk about this option where I've shown the two areas of planting in green as a sketch only. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Augusta.
Yes, good evening. The original plantings that we had there, the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to make a little bit more room for my grandchildren to play. Last Friday, Mr. Matthews came to the property, and we walked it. We spent over an hour there going over this, and I suggested something like this, and he thought that it was that it might be doable because I want to increase the grass area, but I still want to bring the 5,000 square feet of remediation that I'm required to do. And so we've come up with this plan, this conceptual plan, to put a strip right along the marsh, like you see in the green. That is approximately 3,500 square feet, approximately. And the top strip is about 1,500 square feet of plantings. As you know, I had this all planted before. I think you have pictures. I showed them to Mr. Matthews when he was there. And I didn't get compliance. It was during COVID. It had been all done, 100% done. Clover did it at considerable cost. But we had a couple of big storms. Most of the plants died because of the salt. And those were the ones that I was told to plant, but they died. And here we are. I want to make it right. And we've come up with this dual location of the plantings, which I would really like to do, as I said, to give me a little bit more grass area. My grandchildren are over all the time. They like to run around and play like kids do. And this is what I'd like to do. And I'd certainly like the commission to look at it and work with me on it and get it done. As I know, I said I met with Mr. Matthews, and he can testify. He was there, and I proposed something like this, and he told me that propose it to the committee, and here we are. Thank you, sir.
All right, Mike, if you would stop sharing for the moment.
Yep.
But don't be surprised when we ask you to bring it back up.
Yep.
You know how that works. Jen.
We haven't seen this plan, so the staff has no comments on it at this time. We can't evaluate it. What we can say, Mike, is you also have to deal with the reinforced turf, which, what?
Excuse me 1 second. I showed that to Mr. Matthews also. Go ahead, sir. Mr. Matthews.
Hold on. Everyone stop. Jen, you're up. Let's just do the mitigation first, if you don't mind, and then we'll skip over to the other piece.
Okay. So I don't know. We haven't had time to evaluate it. So this is the first we're seeing it. Mr. Augusta, you may have shown it to the chairman, but we haven't seen it yet. So staff has no ability to comment on it. We haven't seen the spacing. We haven't seen what Angela is proposing. So right now, we really can't comment on those areas. There are other elements that need to be addressed, but we can work with Mike and Angela and you to address those and bring a plan to the board. But at this time, the staff can't comment on anything that we're seeing for the first time at 9:30 at night.
Okay.
So I think part of the idea of this was simply that, I mean, I know my visit was intended just to see where the originally proposed area was. It was staked out. And I think the idea is simply that can the mitigation area be modified where it is because of the flooding? So that was, I mean, that's one of the reasons I went there. So I think part of the idea of proposing different spots is just to get a feel for what could be approved. I know when I was there, I said to Mr. Augusta that I thought, splitting it up would be a possibility, but I did say, you remember, Steve, I think it should be closer to the east side. I think it should be, move closer to the dock, if you will. That's my opinion. So the other piece, Jen?
Well, the other piece is that we have, like Mike said, there's enlargement of pavement. We have this reinforced, what they're calling reinforced turf, which it really isn't. It's like it's a concrete type grid system that we didn't know was going in, because when the original plan was presented, nobody knew there were garage doors there. Had we known that, we could have evaluated it. So that was not disclosed to the board, that there were going to be garage doors there. And then there are also the issue of the how many trees was it, a list of like 23 canopy trees that were proposed already in a canopy area that are just being cut to 3 feet high. Those need to be addressed. Now, staff can say, because we've consulted with each other, that we really don't believe 23 canopy trees are appropriate in that area. It's already forested, but it does need to be addressed. It was proposed. The board approved it. It was part of the plan. So Mike, we're gonna have to talk with Angela and Mr. Augusta on what we do with those trees that are being topped to a height of 3 feet. Maybe we can replace them with smaller understory trees or shrubs or something like that, but we'll have to go out and evaluate that.
Mm-hmm.
So Mike, is Angela working on a plan? Or is she waiting for feedback?
She was waiting for feedback. We didn't want to set her out on a design until we got a little bit more feedback, but she was here earlier, but she's away, actually. She did a remote Zoom for that other hearing, but we didn't see the need for her to be on this one until we got a little bit more direction and if we had any, guidance. So she'll be consulted with after this, going forward after this.
The board has seen these kind of reinforced areas for parking, but never have they seen them moving closer to a resource area as this one is. So that's an issue with the property as well. It's just not meeting that. And again, had the board been informed that it was going to be garage doors, that could have been addressed at the time.
I have a truck in there. I have a tractor. I got a golf cart. The grass, there was some gravel there before, but it was messy, and I put it the grass. The grass just doesn't last. I just tear it up. I mean, I think what I have is much more appropriate than destroying the grass when it's wet. If I move my pickup in and out of the garage there,
Well, if I could add to that, if you've been to the site and you saw this, I'm gonna keep calling it reinforced turf. It looks like grass right now. It's basically looks like the grass as long as it's maintained as lawn.
Mr. Matthews was there. I think he could. It's all grown in. It's green. You got to mow it.
Again, the board usually sees this, requires on every other project, we've seen these types of reinforced areas. The board requires a mitigation area, a reserve area to be shown on the plan. But again, Mr. Borselli, Mr. Augusta, and the board, we've never seen them moving closer. The issue is moving closer than the present primary structure. And that's just what the regulations say. Mr. Augusta, you can disagree with me all you want, but it's just in black and white, and we're
Wait a
just
minute, but
letting
the
the board
decision's up to the
know.
board, right?
Yep. No.
Okay.
I think we can come up with the reserve area on the revised plan.
Oh, I'm sure you got plenty of room, Mike. You can come up with a reserve area. It's the moving closer that's the issue.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tear it up. I'll put grass back. I don't give a shit. That's what I'll do. I'll do it in a heartbeat. So that's what we want to do.
Well,
Here, hold on. Let's poll the commissioners. So Courtney,
This is the second time we've seen this. I think it sounds to me like staff and Mr. Augusta and Mike Borselli need to all get on the same page. And once they're on the same page, then they can come in and present something to us that's concrete that everybody's happy with. And I don't see this as something that's beyond solution. I just think it needs everybody working together. So I think we should continue this and allow all the powers to be to do their homework.
well, I think a plan is in order. David, you with us?
No comments.
Okay.
Sorry, was muted.
All right. All right. Ronnie,
I'd like to go out to the site. This is the first time I've seen it, so I'd like to put eyes on it, move forward.
okay. Russ,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've been out there even when it was being constructed. I remember back then. I don't want to make a decision on this until we have something settled. Staff is cool. Everybody's on the same page. I agree with Courtney and yourself, Mr. Chairman.
We'll get a plan. Yeah,
I think that's where we need to go. So,
all right. Steve,
Thanks. I'm familiar with the site as well. I'm looking forward to seeing a plan.
Bill,
This is my first time seeing this, so I'll hold judgment until I see a plan at a later date.
Okay. So, and it kind of looks, Jen, like we need a revised plan that shows the proposed mitigation locations and quantities to start with, correct?
Yeah, we're gonna
Okay.
need to work with Angela and Mike and Mr. Augusta to come up with a plan that everyone's happy with, and that we can come to the board and say that we're good with it. We'll need the newer commissioners for the Mullen Rule to review the prior hearing. We'll send them all the information. I don't think it's insurmountable. We'll get somewhere. We can't comment on something we're seeing for the first time. That's really unfair to ask the staff to do that. And conceptually, like I said, we'll work with you in the canopy trees. We don't think it's appropriate for them to be in that area. We can work with them on that. We can work with Angela on the species. Bisecting the two things, we'll need to put some thought into. Mike said about the gravel. We'll hash out the turf area. I mean, I think the only sticking point is going to be that turf area.
So we're gonna thank you for the feedback.
Thank you.
If it's okay, Mr. Chairman, we need to get Angela into the loop of what the results of this were, get her developing the plan. So we're gonna need more time, but we're gonna ask for a continuance, but you'll have at that meeting, you'll have had a plan at least a week prior to whatever date we asked for tonight. It seemed like there was a lot of commissioner comment on wanting to see the plan. We just didn't get to it yet. We wanted to show the idea. So we're going to proceed with some type of plan that reflects this kind of sketch plan that I'm sharing with you, which will come as a result of learning what we learned tonight, meeting with staff and Angela Tana, developing a plan that hopefully everyone can feel good about. So and again, just like I had said earlier, we don't want to do, planting and set it up for failure in the heat of a droughty summer. So, the goal was to try to get this approved and so that it could be planted in the fall. So with that, I'd like to request a continuance to August 27th.
August when?
Well, wait,
27th.
Mike, August 27th, I mean, you're going to want to plant it in the fall. You're pushing right up against that planting window. Can we kind of get a plan a little earlier than that? I'm all for planting in the fall, but if there's any disagreement with this plan, then it's going to miss that October planting window.
How late into I don't know what the window is.
October 30th is like basically when you really can't plant anymore. So you're really pushing that envelope. And I think if this has been out there for a while, I think you might be able to get us a plan a little bit sooner.
All right.
I mean, you're asking for 2 months.
Yeah, you're not meeting on the 20th. How about August 13th?
What's wrong with the 6th? You don't have enough time? That's a month and a half.
Well, we could ask.
We have the 13th open, Mike, but I want to meet with you and Angela so we get a plan. I want to meet with Angela and you like sometime in like early July with Mr. Augusta so we can hash this out so Angela can put together a plan so when you come to the board on the 13th, they can accept it and Angela can start preparing to plant.
The alternative would be the 6th, but I can't promise that. I can't speak for
6th or the 13th, Mike. It's 1 week. I don't care either way.
I was just listening.
But I don't want to push it out to the 27th because if the board or we don't see it until late August and we have some disagreements, then we're just going to miss that planting window. And we really want to. We're not going to force Mr. Augusta to plant in the summer. That's just silly.
Could I ask
the fall is the best area.
For procedural, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
On an enforcement order, if you vote on it that night, can it be executed? Is there a 21? Do you still have to issue some document or could we act on after it's voted on? Could we proceed?
we need to issue a document, Mike, because it's going to
Okay.
have monitoring requirements and conditions and all
Okay.
of that. So
I
we're
think
going
what
to
he's
need some
asking is,
time.
can he act right on it?
Yeah.
We could start like, if it, we could order plants, things like that. I'm just asking, so I'm
No,
asking.
no,
for the
I know,
13th.
Mike. But you know the drill. We need to issue the enforcement order. It's going to have monitoring requirements and all of that. And I really do want the opportunity to make sure that Mr. Augusta understands all that. I don't care if it's the 6th or the 13th, but I
That's not what
do
he's,
not want
that's
to
not what
push
he's
it out to
asking.
the
He's asking
27th.
if he gets approved, can he start right away? The answer is there's still an appeal period, but you could start it at the risk of your own peril. So if something happened and I got appealed, right?
I just
No,
think
if
Jen
you
wants to
vote
have
it, then we have to issue it.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to have it prepared that night.
I
Or we
think
can
we're
try.
okay. We're okay if
We're
it's,
okay.
if we have a good night and it's accepted, it'll be in the window. And we'll be like standing by. If we get good feedback, we know we're gonna get some document that's gonna be workable. We can start to like gear up for it without having the document.
Right.
So whatever the board, I'm asking for the 13th, gives us one more week because I want to give Angela one more week.
Yep, the 13th is fine with me, Mike.
Thank you.
All right, Courtney, your hand's ready to fall off.
Well, it was up, I mean, it's up to the board, but I would have pushed for the 6th, and then if they need more time, they could ask for a continuance, but that lights a fire under all parties.
So the request is for the 13th.
Okay.
Make a motion to continue this until August 13th.
August 13th.
Second,
Thank
Pat.
you. All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this matter until August 13th. Last call, questions or comments? And we're voting on the continuance. Bill,
Duffy, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
David,
Kent, I.
Matthews, aye. Ronnie,
Bowman, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, high.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this till 8:13. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Good night.
Good night.
All right. Vote amended order of conditions. Andrew and Joanne Whitus, 39 Juniper Point Road, Falmouth, Mass.
This was a request to amend. They want to do some slight changes to the parking area, some mitigate where we were relocating some mitigation. They want to put some low lighting around the property. It's minimal work, but it was enough where we felt the abutter should have been notified, so we made them come forward with an amendment. I don't believe there were any special conditions. I was going to say, listen, I'm thinking it's something, I just can't remember it.
Yeah, there was some changes to the planting plan in terms of reconfiguring the areas to include more of an herbaceous layer of native plantings. In speaking with the landscape architect, they understood that the same square footage of shrubs is required, so they just might increase the size of the planting area. We just need a revised plan that staff can approve prior to installation.
Simple enough. Anything anybody want to see in there? All right, what are you thinking?
I'll move to accept an amended order as discussed.
Second, Robbins.
All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an amended order of conditions. Questions or comments? We're voting to issue the amended order. Bill,
Duffy, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
David,
Kent, I.
Matthews, aye. Ronnie,
Bowman, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have issued an amended order of conditions. Next up, Scott and Kerry Tellier, Skoker Property Holdings, LLC, 87 Colonial Way, Falmouth, Mass.
Yes, this was an amended order to install a pool, a shed, covered patio, outdoor kitchen, rent station. And I think this is the one they want relief from the cedars that they were required to plant because they planted all sorts of other small understory trees that never got approval. So I am going to recommend that they still be required to remove the cedars. This is the property that had all the cedars that was entangled in all that bamboo. So they went through the whole property and they just wiped everything out because you couldn't really save any of the cedars. They were so compromised. It's flood zone only, but it was a really big project. So we had them file the notice and we wanted some of that cedar material replaced. They went ahead and planted other trees, and we're saying they should probably plant the cedars that they were required to plant, as well as the little understory trees they planted, because they did just wipe out the entire property of vegetation. So, how many cedars was it, Alyssa? It wasn't many. It was like 5.
5.
It was a grove of 5.
Yeah, grove.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess other trees could be an option too, but just actually replacing the tree matter with native species that this board typically approves.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? Okay. What are you thinking?
I'll make a motion to issue an amended order of conditions as discussed.
Robbins second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an amended order of conditions. Last call, questions or comments? We're voting to issue the amended order of conditions. Bill?
Duffy, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye.
David?
And I.
Matthews, aye. Ronnie?
Bowman, aye.
Russ?
Robbins aye.
Steve?
And I.
It is unanimous. We have issued an amended order of conditions. Next up, the ever popular other business. Yeah, Jen wants, never mind. Elect a Conservation Commission chairman. You had enough of me. I'm out of here. I'm
Okay,
not going to
so
vote or say anything because it doesn't matter.
first off, Jamie, thank you for being our chair for all these years and leading us through battle. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I
You're
need
welcome.
someone to make a motion for a new chair.
First of all, before I make that motion, I'd like to second that. Jamie, you have done a hell of a job as a chair. I've been on this commission since Methuselah was a kid, and I would say you rank up near the top, if not the top, and deserve a multiple gold stars, particularly for putting up with me all that time. So,
Thanks, Court.
and I will nominate Russ Robbins to be the new chair.
I'll second that.
Who second?
What's up that?
Okay.
Bowman, second.
Thank you. All right. We have a motion and a second to elect Russell as the new chairman. Questions, comments? Nah, never mind. Just vote. Bill?
Duffy, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye.
David?
Stephen, Kent, I.
Ronnie?
Bowman, aye.
Russ, you can't vote for yourself. Steve?
Why can't he vote for himself? Pat and I.
What the hell? It's a majority anyway. Congratulations, Russ. You are the new chairman.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'd also like to make a motion to elect Courtney Bird as vice chair.
I'll not second it, but I'll accept it only with one proviso that there's a subtitle that I have, which is resident curmudgeon.
I'll totally second that.
I think that can be arranged.
All right, we got a motion and a second for Courtney to be vice chair and resident curmudgeon. Bill,
Duffy, aye.
Courtney, you're not voting on yourself. David,
Can't tie.
Russ, Ronnie, I'm sorry.
Bowman, aye.
Steve, I skipped Russ.
Pat
Jesus.
and I,
Robin,
See, this is why I was kicked out. I just can't follow 5 names. Congratulations, Courtney. Good luck to everyone.
One more thing, guys. We are going to have to select a CPC representative. The CPC is the Community Preservation Committee. I'll get their schedule for the board. It is required to have a member of the Concom sit on the CPC. So, Steve, are you still the representative for the Housing Authority?
I am.
You
I've been
are.
trying to
Okay.
get rid of that one. I'd take Concon if I get rid of housing, but I can't. Everybody
I was
else
gonna
has
say,
conflicts. Worse
I'll give
than
you a
mine.
call tomorrow. We're gonna try to get you to be our representative. We know how
I'd be
much you
happy
like
to
being
be
on
a
CP.
dual representative if that's acceptable.
I don't know. I'll have to check on that. I know you like the CPC. So, but I'll get the schedule for everybody. And if anybody's interested in what the CPC is, what the time commitment is, Steve, if one of the newer people were interested, could reach out to you on the time
Absolutely.
commitment, you know. Steve, what is the time commitment, if you don't mind telling us right now?
We meet approximately every 3 weeks, except during the prior to our recommendations to town meeting, and then we meet weekly for maybe 3 weeks.
Okay.
In the late fall.
Okay. And roughly how long are the meetings? Every 3 weeks?
They're in person at the
Yep.
school administration building, and they're short of an hour.
Okay. Thank you.
yeah, it's a great committee too, by the way. It's it really is. There's good people on there, and it's interesting too. And you give
Very
your money
interesting.
away, so everybody likes you. You know what I
You
mean?
get to give away money.
And the meetings are only
Thank
an
you. We'll
hour.
take
That's what
that
they told
vote
me about
later.
conservation.
Jamie, thank you for everything. I've enjoyed working with you, and I appreciate the leadership and guidance and everything that you've given this committee, this board in the last couple of years. Thank you.
I'd like
Love
to
you guys
second
as well.
that. I'd like to second that, and we'll see you back, what, 1 year?
1
1
year,
year.
Jamie. All right.
All right, last motion. I'm taking it. Motion to adjourn.
Bird second.
Robin's eye.
Duffy, aye.
Bird eye.
Bowman, aye.
Can't tie.
Dave,
Pat and I.
Matthews, aye.
there we go. Good night, guys.
We're adjourned.
See you in a
Thank you,
year,
everyone.
Jamie.